"You don't belong here anymore," my dad said at the end of a family meeting. My sister added, "It's not personal, we just don't trust you." I didn't respond. I simply walked out, contacted the title company, and had my name removed from the lake house deed. Then I froze the trust account I'd been funding. By morning, their lawyer emailed, "There's a major financial issue." And my mom sent, "Please, just talk to us." I got angry and something changed in me that day. Not gradually like I thought it would, not over years of jokes and side eyes and being the afterthought. It was sudden. Clean. When they said what they said at the lake house, something in me shut off. And I knew I wouldn't be the same after that. I'd always known I was the odd one out. The only one who didn't get married by 27, who didn't have kids lined up like checkboxes, who didn't move to the suburbs and trade in dreams for matching holiday pajamas. And I honestly didn't mind. I liked my life. I liked my work. I liked waking up without being buried in debt or guilt. But I kept showing up. Every birthday, every crisis, every favor they asked, I was there. Quietly, behind the scenes, without needing applause. The shift wasn't about the words, though they were sharp. It was about what they meant, and how confidently they said them. It was supposed to be a weekend to talk about upgrades to the lake house. I'd already paid for the last round of renovations. My sister had joked over text that maybe this time they'd let me pick the kitchen tile. I actually believed we were working together on something. So when they asked me to sit down outside for a quick talk, I had no reason to expect what came next. My dad looked right at me. "You don't belong here anymore." There wasn't a pause. No one looked shocked. My sister jumped in right after, like they had practiced it. "It's not personal, we just don't trust you." That line caught me off guard. Not personal? Not trusting me? I'd handled every financial disaster they'd quietly handed me. When my brother's second child was born and their insurance wouldn't cover the NICU stay, I covered it. When my parents were about to lose the property taxes on this very lake house, I paid them before the county ever noticed. I never used it as leverage, never brought it up again. Not once. And yet there they were, telling me I didn't belong. That I wasn't trustworthy. I didn't ask questions. I didn't push back. I didn't even look at them. I just stood up, walked to my car, and drove home. I don't remember most of that drive. Just flashes. The gravel crunching under the tires. The way my phone buzzed and I ignored it. And the calm I felt when I opened my laptop that night. First, I contacted the title company and submitted the documents to have my name officially removed from the deed. I paid the processing fee myself, just to be done with it. Then I logged into the trust account, an account they didn't know I controlled alone, and froze it. Every dollar in there had been deposited by me. They hadn't added a cent since it was opened. By morning, there was an email from a lawyer. "There's a major financial issue." Then a text from Mom. "Please, just talk to us." I didn't answer either. Because for the first time in my life, I saw them for who they were. And I knew I was done pretending we were something we weren't. The silence after the lake house weekend wasn't quiet in the usual way. It was the kind of silence that fills your chest and doesn't let you breathe right. The kind where you keep replaying everything in your head, looking for the moment you missed the warning signs. But there weren't signs. Just years of tiny dismissals and half-smiles when I offered to help. For the first time in my life, I had nothing to say to any of them. And for the first time, I didn't want to fix it. I didn't answer my mom's text. I didn't open the follow-up email from their lawyer. I just sat in it. In the space between what I thought family was and what I now knew it had always been. I started replaying other things too. Christmas 2 years ago, when they waited until I left the room to take the family photo. The time I drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to help my dad get his truck out of a ditch, and he told people later that my brother came to the rescue. The way my sister asked me to co-sign on a loan, and then told people at church that she had figured it out on her own. There was a pattern, and it was so obvious now that I was embarrassed I hadn't seen it sooner. 3 days went by with nothing. I assumed they were stewing, or maybe strategizing. I know them well enough to know they never let anything lie for long. On day 4, my brother sent a text. "Just checking in?" That was it. No mention of what happened. No acknowledgement. Like it hadn't even occurred. I didn't respond. That's when I logged into my accounts and started looking at everything I had set up over the years. I had been so casual about it all, linking my card to subscriptions for their kids' school stuff, paying for utilities on the lake house because it was easier than waiting for them to figure it out, even handling their accountant's retainer for the last 2 years. I had almost forgotten how much of their lives I had quietly patched together. One by one, I shut them down. I called the insurance company and had the lake house boat policy transferred. I canceled the security monitoring. I even pulled the auto-renewal on the family Netflix account because I was tired of paying for a service I never used. That's when the tone of their messages shifted. My sister sent me a long text that tried to sound concerned. She said she was worried about how I was taking things. That we'd all said things we didn't mean. Except I hadn't said anything. I had just left. She wanted to meet up. Coffee, maybe? I didn't reply. The next message was from my dad. A photo of the lake house with some line about how much better it looked since we'd fixed it up. As if it would tug some nostalgic thread in me and make me forget what he said. Then another from Mom. Longer this time. She said families fight. That we were all under stress. That I was always a little too sensitive. That I needed to understand it wasn't about me. I read it and deleted it. Because I finally understood that I was never really part of their version of family. I was the safety net. The extra account. The emergency contact. But not someone they actually respected. And now that I wasn't funding the background of their lives anymore, they didn't know how to talk to me. By the second week, they started to crack. The silence they once counted on to manipulate, giving me the cold shoulder until I fell back into line, wasn't working anymore. I wasn't reaching out. I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't apologizing. And they didn't know what to do with that. First came the casual check-ins. My brother left a voicemail acting like everything was normal. He said he had a new business idea and wanted to run it by me. No mention of the lake house. No mention of what they said. Just like always, skip the part where you hurt someone and pretend it didn't happen. I didn't call back. Then I got a message from Alicia, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. She and I were friends during college, but we drifted apart like most people do. Her message was short. Something about hoping I was okay, and that my family was worried. It was obviously orchestrated. I never mentioned the lake house to her, and there's no way she would have randomly reached out like that unless someone nudged her. Probably my sister. That was when I realized how badly they needed me back in place. And not because they missed me. Because I had become essential to the system they built, quietly, over years, without ever admitting it. I was the emergency backup. The one who funded things when they couldn't. The one who knew how to fix paperwork, get a CPA on the phone, negotiate an insurance premium. I was their safety net, but they still laughed behind my back about how I wasn't settled yet. They weren't just uncomfortable now. They were exposed. The next email from their lawyer didn't even try to sound neutral. He needed to urgently discuss access to the trust. I didn't respond. Then came the second email, longer, outlining how time-sensitive payments were being disrupted. He still didn't name specifics, but I knew what they were. The lake house taxes were due in July. The HVAC service was annual, scheduled for the end of the month. Their insurance bill probably hit that week, too. Everything was unraveling because I wasn't there to patch it. That's when they got bold. My sister called me twice in one day. I watched the phone ring. She left a message that said she didn't want things to escalate. Escalate? She was the one who stood next to my dad while they kicked me out of the house I paid to renovate. Then my dad texted, "Come talk to us. You're overreacting." Overreacting. That word kept echoing in my head. I remembered every single time they used it. When I got upset that they left me out of a group vacation. When I asked why I wasn't invited to speak at Mom's retirement party even though I had funded the whole event. When I called them out for forgetting my birthday for the third year in a row. I was always overreacting. No one ever said, "We hurt you." Then one evening, I saw my dad outside my apartment building. I recognized the old green jacket from the window. He stood on the sidewalk across the street, looking up at the windows like he was trying to figure out which one was mine. He didn't buzz. He just stood there. For 20 minutes. Eventually, he walked back to his car and drove off. Later that night, Mom texted again. "We just want to talk. Families don't cut each other off over misunderstandings." That word again. Misunderstanding. They all thought if they just acted calm enough, rational enough, I'd question myself. Maybe I'd feel guilty. Maybe I'd convince myself I'd misinterpreted everything. But I hadn't. They were the ones who sat me down, looked me in the face, and told me I didn't belong. They were the ones who made that decision. And now that the consequences were landing, they didn't want to take responsibility. They weren't trying to fix things. They were trying to reset the illusion. And I wasn't interested in playing along. It was the third week when things started to take a turn I didn't expect. Up until then, the silence had felt heavy, but predictable. They called, I didn't answer. They messaged, I ignored it. I kept cutting off financial ties one by one, and they kept pushing back harder each time. But then a letter showed up in my mailbox, from a lender I'd never heard of. I almost tossed it, figured it was junk mail, but something about it felt off. The envelope was addressed to me directly. Inside was a vague but official-looking notice about a pending loan involving the lake house. My name wasn't listed on the paperwork, but the contact address was my apartment. I called the number on the letter, acting like I didn't know what it was about. The woman on the other end was polite but guarded. She wouldn't tell me much, but I got enough to piece it together. 2 weeks before the family meeting, my parents applied for a private equity loan against the lake house. Right before they told me I didn't belong. That's when everything clicked. It wasn't just about hurt feelings or generational tension. This had been planned. They didn't just want me out, they needed me off the deed. Legally. Financially. Clean break. If my name was still on the property, the loan wouldn't go through. They waited until I removed myself from ownership and then filed the application. They used me to fund the place, then pushed me out to monetize it. The calm I'd built over the last few weeks cracked a little. Not because I wanted back in, but because I had trusted them more than I realized. Somewhere deep down, I still believed we were just broken, not cruel. But this wasn't dysfunction. It was deception. I checked the shared digital folder we used for family documents. They had revoked my access. The tax forms, the renovation receipts, the scanned deed, gone. All cleaned up. If I hadn't saved copies on my own laptop, I wouldn't even have proof I'd been involved. That same night, I got a message from my brother's wife. We'd never been close. She mostly avoided me at gatherings, always polite but distant. So when her name popped up on my screen, I was surprised. She didn't say hi. Didn't try to make small talk. Her message was just 2 lines. You don't know the full story. Ask your dad about the second mortgage. That one hit like ice water. I didn't reply, but I started digging. County records, property filings, anything I could find. It took less than an hour to confirm it. 18 months ago, my parents took out a second mortgage on the lake house. Not through a bank. Through a private lender. No one told me. No one told my sister, apparently. And yet, during that time, they let me keep funding improvements. Let me cover taxes and maintenance. Let me believe I was helping preserve something for the family, when in reality, they were stacking silent debt behind my back. They were already underwater. And I was the backup plan. Now the trust was frozen, the loan was stalling, and I had become a problem instead of a solution. They didn't just not tell me. They actively kept me in the dark. And when it got risky, they cut me out. This wasn't just betrayal. It was calculation. By week 4, something shifted again, but not in the way I expected. I had come to terms with what they did. The lies, the manipulation, the way they planned to cut me out while continuing to use the house and money I helped build up. At that point, I thought I was past being shocked. I figured they'd either go quiet or get more desperate through lawyers or mutual friends. But then it turned personal again. My mom showed up at my work. I saw her standing near the loading area behind the building when I left that day. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. I hadn't seen her in person since the lake house. She walked over when she saw me, like we were about to catch up after church or something, like we hadn't gone a month without speaking. She said my name softly, asked if we could talk, said things were getting out of hand. I didn't stop walking. I got in my car and pulled away. I didn't look back. A few minutes later, the text came through. We're exhausted from trying. If you really don't want a relationship, we'll stop. There was something final in it. Like she was letting go. But not in a way that showed understanding, more like resignation. Like she was the one giving up after all her efforts. Except none of it was effort. Not the kind that mattered. They weren't trying to understand, or listen, or own what they did. They were trying to reset the terms, push the pieces back into place so the game could resume. That message was the end of their performance. And for me, it was confirmation. I spent the rest of the night going through the last few years of messages, photos, receipts. The group chats they kept me out of. The vacations I wasn't invited on. The payments I made that no one ever acknowledged. I looked at the last family Christmas photo they sent, cropped without me, even though I was the one who booked the rental cabin. I realized then that it had always been like this. I was useful, not valuable. Present, not seen. Respected only when I stayed quiet and helped without asking for anything in return. And the moment I stopped doing that, when I chose myself over them, they treated it like betrayal. So I made the decision. I opened my phone. Went through my contacts. One by one, I blocked them. Mom. Dad. My brother. My sister. Their spouses. Every number, every group thread. I blocked their emails, unfollowed their accounts, muted the chats. I deleted the shared cloud folders. Backed up what I needed. Cleared out the rest. I didn't do it out of hate. I did it because the version of me they wanted no longer exists. And I don't think I can be around them without slowly becoming that person again. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But for now, this is the only way I can keep what's left of me intact. It's been almost 2 months now. No calls. No voicemails. No lawyers. No visitors waiting outside my job or building. Just silence. The kind that settles in after a storm, not peaceful exactly, but still. Like the dust has finally stopped swirling. They did what they said they would. They stopped trying. I thought it might feel satisfying, some kind of victory after everything they put me through. But it didn't feel like a win. It felt like closing a door on a house you spent years trying to fix, only to realize the foundation was already cracked before you ever walked in. Most days are quiet now. I work. I cook. I sit with my thoughts longer than I used to. There's no drama, no late-night emergencies, no side comments from my sister about getting my act together. No obligations disguised as family traditions. Just space. And yet, I still catch myself reaching for the phone. Random moments. I'll read an article I know my mom would have liked or see a photo from years ago and think about texting it to my sister. My mind forgets for a second that those connections are gone. That I'm the one who cut the rope. I haven't unblocked them. I haven't reopened the folders, chats, or email filters. But I've thought about it. Not out of regret. Out of curiosity. To see what I'd feel if I let them back in. But each time I consider it, I come to the same conclusion. Nothing's changed. They didn't try to fix anything. They tried to reset control. And when that didn't work, they walked away. The final message came last week. From my dad through a new email account that wasn't blocked yet. Just a single line. We understand this is your choice. We won't contact you again. There was no apology. No ownership. Just quiet resignation. I didn't reply. I didn't even save the message. I blocked the new email and kept moving. What still surprises me is how light it feels now. For so long, I carried the weight of being the good one, the helper, the dependable one, the person who never said no. I bent myself around their needs for years. They disrespected me because I let them. And I funded the very structure that made me invisible. And now? I don't owe anyone anything. I've started traveling a little. Places I used to skip because there was always a reason to stay close. I deleted the group calendar. I joined a gym and started sleeping better. I even stopped waking up with that tight feeling in my chest, like I was forgetting to handle something important. Because there's nothing left to handle. I don't know if I'll always feel this sure. Maybe in a year, I'll look back and question if I went too far. If I cut them off completely when something softer could have worked. But right now, the idea of going back, of opening that door even a little, makes my stomach twist. They had every chance to be honest. They had every opportunity to treat me like family. They chose convenience. So I chose myself. And for now, That choice feels like the only one that ever really belonged to me. That's the end of the story. But maybe it's the beginning of something better. It had been 3 full months since I cut them off. 3 months of silence, not a single message, not a sighting, not a passive-aggressive email from a cousin or cryptic Facebook post. The noise had faded, and I started building something that felt like a real life, my life, for the first time in years. I got a new apartment. One with warm light and a kitchen that actually made me want to cook. I started going out more. I picked up old hobbies I hadn't touched in ages. And maybe most surprising of all, I met someone. Dana. It was gradual, the way she became part of my life. She didn't try to fix me or unpack my family trauma. She just asked real questions. Listened without rushing to fill the silence. One night, over dinner, she asked if I wanted her to stay over. That was 2 months ago. Now she's here more nights than not, and it doesn't feel complicated. So I wasn't expecting the call when it came. It was my uncle, my mom's younger brother, the one who's always been on the periphery. He's never been involved in the drama. We'd never talked much. He called me out of nowhere and said he was in town. Asked if we could meet for dinner. I had a gut feeling. Still, I said yes. We met at a neutral spot, quiet, no expectations. He talked for a while about nothing in particular, catching up, talking about work, weather, the kind of things you say before you get to the real reason you're there. And then he said it. They've been talking about you a lot. Your parents. Your sister. They've calmed down a lot. They're not proud of how things went. They don't know how to reach you. I didn't say anything. He didn't push. Just said they wanted to have dinner. One dinner. No strings. I didn't agree to it right away. I told him I'd think about it. And I did, for days. Not because I wanted closure, but because I wanted to look at them and feel nothing. To sit across the table and know I'd made the right decision. So last night we met. All of them. We chose a small restaurant on the edge of town. Somewhere unfamiliar to all of us, probably on purpose. I got there a little early. They showed up together, Mom, Dad, my brother, my sister. Everyone looked a little older than I remembered. A little more tired. The dinner wasn't dramatic. There were no tears, no long confessions. My sister asked how work was. My dad talked about the lake house like nothing had happened. My mom watched me more than she spoke. And then, about halfway through, I mentioned Dana. They didn't even try to hide their surprise. I told them we'd been living together for a little while now. That things were good. Solid. It was the first time in a long time I saw something break in their expressions. Something real. My mom said softly that she was happy for me. My sister asked how we met. I kept my answers light. Not guarded, just careful. Dinner ended with hugs, awkward ones. My dad said they were glad I came. No one mentioned what happened. Not directly. And here I am, the morning after, trying to make sense of it. Everything went smoothly. Better than I expected. They were polite, gentle even. Like people walking around the edge of a hole they dug but didn't want to admit was theirs. My life is better now. That's not even up for debate. I'm building something real. I'm not constantly untangling guilt or fixing things they broke. I sleep better. I wake up without dread. But I still don't trust them. I can't. Because nothing was really acknowledged. No one sat across from me and said, "We treated you like you didn't matter." No one brought up the trust fund, the loan, the manipulation. It was a performance. A softer one, sure, but a performance nonetheless. Maybe they're trying. Maybe this is the best they're capable of. But for me, it's not enough. Not yet. So I'll keep the peace. I'll answer the occasional message. Maybe another dinner. But the wall is still up. And I'm not ready to tear it down just because they finally realized I was holding it together all along.